Now, I wanted to look at the Supreme Court stuff really quickly with you guys. Shall we?
We want to talk about the breaking news out of the White House this morning because President Biden is taking on the Supreme Court and he's revealing a brand new plan for changes. Now, I'm watching live because this is just out this morning and I'm tracking the schedule here. He's going to make the announcement today at 9:15 our time. The president will leave the White House and head to Austin, Texas, where he will be speaking about this around 1:30 this afternoon at the LBJ Presidential Library there in Austin. But we already know kind of what's all involved here. The president is calling on Congress to establish term limits and an ethics code for the court's 9 justices, as Biden is also pressing lawmakers to ratify a constitutional amendment that would limit presidential immunity. Now, this is pretty bold reform here, and the White House says it's all trying to restore trust and accountability when it comes to the presidency and the United States Supreme Court. And yet, the question this morning is, with this big announcement, will anything come of it, you guys? Because federal lawmakers...
This is from 3 hours ago. Is he live now talking about this? Usually they hold their stuff at like 10 or 11 a.m. PST.
Congress have to take action. And by most accounts from political analysts, it has little chance of being approved. You know, Congress is closely split along party lines. Republicans have control of the House. Democrats right now have control of the Senate. And we are 99 days before Election Day. So no doubt that will play into all of it. Kim, back to you.
Starting to feel real. And we are your local place for politics. Thank you, Evan.
I think he'll be live in like an hour or something. But here is some of what we know so far. Presidential immunity in a wait, this is from this morning, actually. In an op-ed published Monday by the Washington Post, Biden wrote that this nation was founded was founded on a simple but profound principle. No one is above the law, not the president of the U.S., not a justice on the Supreme Court, no one. President Biden shares the founders' belief that the president's power is limited but not absolute and must ultimately reside with the people. A White House official said prior to the op-ed's publication, he is calling for a constitutional amendment that makes clear that no president is above the law or immune from prosecutions committed while in office. Biden will advocate for these reforms during remarks at the LBJ Presidential Library in Austin, Texas, where he will mark the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. A constitutional amendment is not easily accomplished. It must either be proposed by 2/3 vote in both the House and Senate, or a constitutional convention is requested by 34 states. From there, 38 state legislatures would have to approve it. The last time an amendment was added to the Constitution was the 27th Amendment in 1992. So it's not looking great, guys. It's the chance that this is going to happen is low. But yeah, we're going to try and undo the shit show that is presidential immunity from everything always, which was insane that happened. But the chance of like an amendment, considering that we haven't had one in 20, 30 years? 02, 11, yeah. 30 years? Not great. Looks like now he's actually making those remarks at 4:30 EST. Did they change it? We'll see. Biden is also pushing Congress. Sorry, let me just finish up the paragraph on presidential immunity. Biden's op-ed comes after the Supreme Court ruled earlier this month that former President Donald Trump was entitled to some immunity and that former presidents had absolute immunity for core official acts. Biden is also pushing Congress to implement an 18-year term limits for Supreme Court justices, which is very generous, by the way. 18 years is very generous. I served as a U.S. Senator for 36 years, including as a chairman and a ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, Biden wrote in his op-ed. I have overseen more Supreme Court nominations as senator, vice president, and president than anyone living today. Yeah, that's because you're the oldest piece of shit that's still in power. No shit, obviously. You were here when the fucking Big Bang happened, dude. We know that. What is happening now is not normal, and it undermines the public confidence in the court's decisions, including those impacting personal freedoms. We now stand in a breach. The official said Biden wants term limits on the court, just as limits were placed on the presidency. The United States is the only major constitutional democracy that gives lifetime seats to its high court justices. The official added, term limits would help ensure that the court's membership changes with some regularity, make timing for court nominations more predictable and less arbitrary, and reduce the chance that any single presidency imposes undue influences for generations to come. Is the 18-year term limit retroactive, or do we not know yet? I would assume it would be retroactive. Um, or alternatively, it would be starting from when it is written in the legislation. So 18 years starting, let's say it was signed and everything went through tomorrow. 18 years starting tomorrow. I would assume that that would be the most fair thing, especially because you still want the Supreme Court justices that are liberal to stay in office, but whatever. SCOTUS Code of Conduct. Further, Biden is pressing for a binding and enforceable code of conduct and ethics rule for the High Court that would require justices to disclose gifts, refrain from public political activity, and recuse themselves from cases in which they or their spouses have financial or other conflicts of interest. I'm sorry, I'm reading chat. I've never really had a problem. I'm a bit of a simp for the law, I'll be honest with all of you guys. Okay, don't judge me too much. But with that in mind, I've always felt mixed about lifetime appointments for the court because the rationale behind it makes a lot of sense. The reason why a lot of Congress is corrupt is because you don't have lifetime seats. And the problem with making seats 4 years or less is that they end up spending all of their time fundraising so that they can win their seat again and not actually doing their job. 18 years, there's kind of like a pro and con list here, right? If you have, let's say between 18 years and 4 years, right? A 4-year appointment means that you're going to spend half of that time fundraising and trying to win your seat again. The problem with 18 years is once you seat that person, it'll be forever before you get to remove them if they are a bad choice. So basically, pros and cons here. The problem is there's no consequences for being the most corrupt motherfucker. I don't even necessarily feel like the term limits is something that's necessary or that the term limits are something that's going to fix the problem. It should just be that the consequences for essentially bribery is like jail for 40 years or something crazy. That if you get accused of taking all of this money, even if it is gifts, even if they aren't impacting you, you should be taking this job and accepting less than $50 in gifts. You should not be able to accept gifts from other members in politics or people who work for people in politics or people who work for super PACs or people who work in any facet of the government or the political world. You should not be able to accept gifts or 40 years in jail. Stone Corporal, thank you so much for the 19 months. Anyways, moving on. I don't think bribery is what makes the Supreme Court shit. It's the ideology of judges themselves and the people who appoint them. I mean, yes and no. If you can't bribe someone into the position, then it's fine, right? Moving on. Where were we? Supreme Court justices should not be exempt from the enforceable code of conduct that applies to every other federal judge. The officials said that the Presidential Commission on the Supreme Court of the United States provided Biden with analysis on his reform proposals, for which he is thankful. In November, the court's 9 justices signed a new formal code of conduct, but critics have said it was not binding and merely a friendly suggestion. Biden's call for SCOTUS reform comes over a year after ProPublica first reported that Justice Clarence Thomas received luxury travel and hospitality perks from a billionaire Republican donor, and that Justice Samuel Alito failed to report a luxury vacation he took with a wealthy hedge fund manager who had later had business before the Supreme Court. Alito rebuffed the allegations, arguing that the justice commonly interpreted rules regarding hospitality to mean that accommodations and transportation for social events were not reportable gifts. He also asserted that he was not aware of the manager's connection with the cases that went before the court. Yeah, right, dude. And that his conversations with the man were limited and didn't include business of that or of that of the court. Thomas said in a statement at the time, this sort of personal hospitality from close personal friends who did not have business before the court was not reportable. Perfect system. Looks good. Looks good. Flocky, thank you so much for the gift sub to Clarence Thomas. More gifts, huh? As if he doesn't have enough gifts. Press directly on if you supported term limits. Graham said, no. Can I propose a crazy concept? If you are a public servant of any kind, and your job is to work in the federal government and create the world that we live in, you should be forced to live the lifestyle of the lowest bracket of Americans. Oh, you want millions of dollars of stocks? Sorry, you can't have that. You're a public servant. Oh, you want to make more than minimum wage? Sorry, you can't have that. You're a public servant. Oh, you want to live in a mansion? I'm so sorry. 1-bedroom apartment only for you. Sorry about that. You should be paid. Like, you should not be able to sit on giant stacks of stock money and wealth. You should not be able to. Wouldn't that itself encourage off-the-books corruption? Yeah, and then the IRS can get them. The IRS is notoriously very good at catching criminals. Like, I know that sounded like a joke, but actually it is not a joke. Usually, the IRS is very good at prosecuting people for not paying their taxes in a way that our criminal system is not very good at catching people for doing criminal things. So if you do engage in illegal activities, as my accounting degree taught me, it doesn't matter what you did in illegal activities, you have to pay your taxes. Because if you don't get caught on the criminal proceedings, you will get caught by the IRS. Oh, this mega mansion and all of these assets that are valued at multi-millions, in the multi-millions. Where'd you get all this money from? Ooh, you're going to get audited. Ooh, you committed major tax fraud, 20 years in jail. Sorry. You know, if you wanted to just tell us undisclosed income and pay the taxes on that, that was fine with us. But you didn't do that. We don't care how you made the money. You have to pay us taxes. We don't care. You just have to pay us the taxes that you owe us. We don't care how you made the money. You just have to pay us taxes or we will get you. That's simple. Al Capone. Yeah. Even the Joker pays his taxes because he's not crazy enough to mess with the IRS. Yeah.
I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS? No, thank you.
Anyways, I have a lot of I could fix our legal system today if I was God Emperor and I could just if I had the Thanos glove, I could fix the system perfectly today by setting in like 50 different rules on the amount of money and the amount of wealth that people in sitting office were able to have. Because I promise you, greedy pieces of shit would not get into politics anymore. It would be a job for people who were benevolent and people who actually wanted to help the American people. Because it would be a job that didn't pay well enough for corrupt people to enter it. Europe has some really good groundwork on wealth taxes that could easily be applied here as well.